Going through every single LEGO game, we have had a total of 472 levels. And hey, I'm sure you know what that means. We're going to be looking at the worst level from every single LEGO game. And obviously, not to forget, yes, this list is my opinion, but I hope it goes to resonate with a few years and maybe bring back some dark memories. So then, cue the music. Actually, wait, pause it. Let me get this one started. So, hello there, matey. I am RuggedEagle and I do tons of LEGO game videos on my channel, so if you went to enjoy this one, feel free to subscribe down below and go to drop a like. That would be greatly appreciated. Oh yeah, and a quick disclaimer, I am not counting LEGO Star Wars the video game or LEGO Star Wars the original trilogy because we have the complete saga. And as we go through every single LEGO game, I will be going via chronological order, starting with the complete saga, working our way up to the Skywalker saga. Well, I hope you go to enjoy. Let's get into it. So, starting off our list is LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and give us a bit of a drum roll. The worst level has to go to Gunship Cavalry. And oh, this level is just painful. Alright, so what makes it so painful is the entire mechanic of towing these detonators. Now, the most frustrating bit for me is the other enemies get in your way and they end up blowing up your detonator, so you have to go right back to the start to grab another one. And if you accidentally unhook your detonator, you have to slowly watch it roll away. It's so depressing. Now, the final stage of the entire level is some of the worst level design I've seen across all LEGO games. Now, the final stage is set up in this 360-degree area and you have to keep towing detonators to destroy the laser turrets. And if you want to come out with 1,000+ studs doing this level, you literally need to be a pilot out of Top Gun. It is that hard. Now, the main issue with the last phase is you need to be really precise with your trajectory, otherwise you are not hitting them laser turrets. And not to forget the amount of times you die, you end up dying over and over and over again. And because the vehicle mechanics in these older LEGO games aren't the greatest, you end up doing ring-a-ring-a roses to shoot enemies, and they're just really clunky. And for me, I don't think the entire design of the level's layout hasn't been that thought out. There's so many lasers firing from left to right, and I'm not a massive fan of the entire layout of Geonosis, especially when you're trying to tow detonators. But do not worry, that is not our last crusade. Up next is LEGO Indiana Jones The Original Adventures. And for this one, I am gonna go with the level, the Motorcycle Escape. So, the Motorcycle Escape on paper has a really good idea behind it. I just don't think the developers executed it that well. Now, it just gets really messy because half the time you're falling off your motorbike and you just don't feel like you're an action hero. It's meant to look like this 80s action movie, but half the time you're just falling off your bike, you're missing the ramp so you can't get over the ledge and you just end up falling to your death. And hey, if the level does work, it really is an epic level. Pulling wheelies as Sean Connery, going through all the trip mines, it can be pretty good. Now, the final stage of this level gets really chaotic. There's that many bazookas getting fired at you. You do not know what to do. Now, there is a plus side. It does look pretty epic pulling wheelies whilst loads of bazookas are getting fired at you until you have to do the level. Now, what makes the final section so bad is every time you get killed by a rocket trooper, you then pick up his rocket launcher, but then you get killed by another rocket trooper, and it's just such a vicious cycle on trying to pick up a rocket launcher. Now, don't get me wrong, I will rather take Motorcycle Escape over Gunship Cavalry any day, and it is a messy level, but sometimes I can see enjoyment from it, and I do have a good laugh whilst playing it. It's just the weakest level in LEGO Indiana Jones 1. And releasing the same year as LEGO Indiana Jones The Original Adventures is LEGO Batman 1, the video game. And oh, LEGO Batman 1 is such a solid LEGO game throughout all of the aspects. It's got a really solid character roster, even though it's the smallest one. And the level design is actually immaculate. It is really solid through the hero missions and the villain missions, but I'm gonna go with Penguin's Lair. And no, I am not flooding the entire list with vehicle missions. I'm not doing that. Now, Chapter 2 in LEGO Batman 1 is probably the weakest chapter out of all the 3 hero chapters, and the last level in Chapter 2 is Penguin's Lair. Now, the main reason why this level is so forgettable is pretty much because it's very bland. All you really use is Batman's suit to glide across and the scuba suit, and that's pretty much the only puzzle, and throwing your batarang at some icicles. Now, yes, a few enemies flooding here and there, but that's nothing special compared to the other amazing levels we have had in LEGO Batman 1. Now, you can clearly see they took a lot of inspiration from Tim Burton's Batman, because you basically have to stop penguins sending out loads of penguins. And oh boy, can we just appreciate this little LEGO penguin model? I'll let you have 2 seconds to appreciate it. There you go. So the final boss battle of the entire chapter of Chapter 2 in LEGO Batman 1 is Penguin, and all you do is direct penguins towards metal objects. Now, I do praise it how it is a little bit different, because we've never actually had a boss battle like that. Now, what I do love about this level is when you see Penguin flying around with his umbrella. I think that's amazing when you got to throw your batarang at him. I really do like that bit. I know it's a bit basic, but come on, Penguin having a waz around. So, dropping a year later in the year of 2009, we have LEGO Indiana Jones 2, and I don't know why this has such a bad rating. It's a good LEGO game. However, though, it may have the worst of the worst on this entire list, and that is Monkey Mischief. So, Monkey Mischief has a really annoying concept behind it. Basically, these villagers are incapable of housing these coconut things, and they get stolen by monkeys. So basically what you need to do is bargain with each of the monkeys and give them a banana to get back the coconut thing. Now, the level does take quite some time, and it is a little bit frustrating because you really know this is a filler level. I mean, there's literally a puzzle where you have to set a stew on fire to rise yourself up using the steam. It's a bit of a wacky one. Now, I am aware that quite a few people got stuck on this level because there's a segment where you get stuck inside this cage and you have to use the sword to throw it at the hook to unrelease the cage. And I'm going to admit, I fell to this one too, and it's just not very clear what you have to do, and I did get stuck at this point when I was younger. And actually thinking about that, a lot of people picked up on that on my last video, how I say younger. It's the northern way. When I was younger. There you go. Anyway, once you've finished the entire level, I'm not even joking you, the coconuts get stolen again by Mola Ram. These villagers are incapable of looking after the coconuts. Literally put them in your house or something. Why are they left out in the open? Oh, so frustrating. Dropping the year after in 2010 is LEGO Harry Potter years 1 to 4. Now, this is my most played LEGO game ever. I absolutely love LEGO Harry Potter, and it was very easy for me on this one. It has to go to the Forbidden Forest. So this is one of the shortest levels in LEGO Harry Potter years 1 to 4, roughly coming in at around 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So this level is really underwhelming, and it's not just because it takes place in a dark, grungy forest, because later on we have had levels take place in the Forbidden Forest again, and they're a lot better than this one. Now, the level plays out as a rescue mission, as you need to rescue Harry Potter from Voldemort, and I never understood why we could not have this version of Voldemort as a playable character. I never understood that. And constantly throughout this entire level, you're always using the spell Lumos because you previously just unlocked it, so you find yourself using it quite a few times. And this is the first ever LEGO game level to bring in the stackable LEGO bricks, which just gets super annoying. I don't think anyone ever stacks them correctly as a staircase. Most people just stack them together and hope for the best to try and get up there. Then the level throws in a few enemies, and these are these gigantic, giant mutated wasps, and I quite like the concept of them. Basically, you have to destroy the hive, and they won't spawn back. And in conclusion, the level just wraps up with using Fang. He digs up a tree, he digs up a lake, and he can climb up a ladder. Literally, Fang is the main tool in this level, alongside the spell of Lumos. So, in summary, I just think it's a really forgettable level. You just keep using the same spell over and over again, alongside digging stuff up over and over again. Anyway, give us the Clone Wars theme. It's time to move on to LEGO Star Wars 3. And you know what? I prefer this one to the complete saga. They're both great games though, but LEGO Star Wars 3, oh, what a LEGO game. For this one, I'm going to go with the level of the Gungan General. Now, the main reason for this is it's basically a battle scenario level, but you play as Jar Jar Binks. Now, I do love the battle scenarios, but sometimes they can be a little bit boring when you're sat on a speeder shooting at something for 1 minute straight, but when they work, they are really fun to do when you're tactically trying to take out certain things, getting in different vehicles. They can be quite exhilarating. Now, the main reason why I chose this level is I just think it's really forgettable, and I really wish they did something else with the concept of this level, because you're trying to save Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Count Dooku, and instead I'd rather have a mission where you're trying to sneak out as Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Count Dooku, like they do in that Clone Wars episode. It just feels like a bit of a wasted opportunity in that regard, because we have tons and tons of battle scenarios in this game, and I do love them. I just think this one's a little bit lackluster. Anyway, next up, wait a minute. Do you hear that? I hear the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. Oh yeah, it's LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, one of the best LEGO games in my opinion. Maybe not the open world or the hub world. It's not the greatest. Now, this was a super tough one for me, and I'm going to have to go with Whitecap Bay. This level is completely different to any other level on this list, and it's actually a transport level, which we do not see very often in LEGO games. So the main goal of this level is to get these crates from A to B, and I really do appreciate the co-op play in this regard, because you got to work very closely together. Mind you, if you do drop your crate, oh, it's a little bit annoying. You got to go back and do it all again, but hey, I guess it's part of the fun. However though, when I was doing it, I was trying to be Captain Jack Sparrow because I opened the bridge up as Angelica and I couldn't switch to Jack Sparrow. I ended up being every single character multiple times, and then when I actually got to it, I ended up knocking him off by accident. Oh, that bit annoyed me. Now, once you've finally finished transporting the crates, you then move up into the lighthouse, and there's a puzzle in here that roughly takes 4 minutes to do, and it's not very engaging. To describe it for you, it's like you've lost your keys. You have to keep going up and down, you need to spin this thing around, get a torch, light the oil, and you're just going up and down numerous times to solve it, and it takes 4 minutes. I mean, that's nearly the exact same length as the entire level of the Forbidden Forest. Then once you've got the lighthouse up and running, you look down a spyglass and you basically have to follow the mermaid. I feel like American Sniper up here. And due to this, the mermaids pretty much get angry at you, and then you have to end up blowing up the lighthouse by transporting even more crates. I mean, I've got to say, I think I did a great job. And whilst you're trying to get one of the crates of dynamite, you have to run into the choir boy. He's one of the best characters. He just sings the same chorus over and over again, that oh, he just sings that over and over. Now someone needs to remix that. Swooping on over, it's time to move back to LEGO Harry Potter years 5 to 7. Now this one is a super easy one for me. It has to go to Felix Felicis. So the level starts out in Professor Sprout's greenhouse, where you do your herbology lessons in the previous game. Now the entire premise of this entire level is to literally suction pump venom out of a dead spider, and not to forget the spider is massive and it's the one that chases you in the previous game. I'm getting my revenge in some sort of way. And yes, I know the spider has a name, it's Aragog. The level starts out with some sort of boss battle, even though it's not technically classified as a boss, otherwise this would be one of the worst bosses ever. It's this gigantic Venus flytrap that's basically blocking your way to get to the dead spider. And to get through, you have to do 3 very easy puzzles, and I really do like the ones where you use Luna Lovegood's goggles, because we haven't seen them puzzles return since. Basically, you put the goggles on and you can see some bricks that are invisible if you don't have the goggles on, and they do make your character look like a Bobby Dazzler. Then once you defeat the Venus flytrap, you move on to the second phase of the level where you suction pump venom out of a spider, which is a very strange concept. And in doing so, you basically have to do an easy sequence of 3 3 puzzles to basically make the suction pump. One of them you have to use the Defindo spell to open up a wall. The other one you have to get 3 items to put into a cauldron that blows up to make parts of a suction pump. I mean, hey, it's the wizarding world, anything can happen. Once you've finally created the suction pump, it's the same thing you do for most pumps in LEGO games where you jump up and down on the pump to pump out the venom. And then, oh boy, does it take a dark turn. They start pulling off all the limbs, jumping up and down on it. I feel sorry for Hagrid. Now, if you compare this level to all of the other levels in LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 to 7, this one definitely stands out because the concept for the level is suction pumping venom out of a spider. I think the developers made this level somewhat engaging for quite a weak concept. So there you go, the days of mumbling is now over. It's time to move on to the first LEGO game with voice lines. LEGO Batman 2. Now this one is a little bit of a different one because it's not like it's a terrible level, it's just obnoxiously long. And hey, well done, you guessed it, it's obviously Ace Chemicals. So after I replayed LEGO Batman 2, I really couldn't decide on which were the worst level, and I just had to put Ace Chemicals on here just because of how long the level is. Mind you do get to play as Superman and you do unlock Superman in this level. That is pretty wicked. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for LEGO Batman 2. When I replayed it, all the levels are such quality, and this one just felt like it is the worst in some sort of way, due to just how long the level lasts, but it's not even that bad. Now, I am aware that quite a few people complain about how you're always using Robin's hazmat suit within this level, but you're in a chemical plantation, you're going to be using a hazmat suit, you know what I mean? And one thing I never noticed when I was younger is the electrical suit for Batman. He's got a move where he literally electrocutes you like Palpatine and full-on throws you into bits and spins you around. Pretty brutal, I never noticed that when I was younger. Anyway, it's time to move over to the lands of Mordor in LEGO Lord of the Rings. If you're not aware, LEGO Lord of the Rings is my all-time favourite LEGO game, so this one was a very easy decision for me because I've played this LEGO game so many times. It's the level Taming Gollum. So the level kicks off with a boss battle between Gandalf and the Balrog, and I actually did mention this in my worst boss battle from every single LEGO game video because I do think it is the worst boss battle in LEGO Lord of the Rings. So in summary, it's just a bit of a bland boss battle. All you do is wait for the Balrog to attack, and then you basically wait for some lightning to strike, and then you propel the lightning back at it, and it's a very slow boss. And don't get me wrong, the boss battle looks stunning, and the visuals and the setting, it's just a shame it's not great in the gameplay. Now, on to the second phase of the level. You play as Frodo and Sam, and what you need to do is collect multiple fishes to throw into a bucket to open a door. And what I have to praise about the developers, they based the entire concept and the setting of this area off the quote from Frodo, we're basically going in circles, and they actually made it a circle. I like that, it's a nice little detail. Now, the puzzles are totally fine in all essence. It just feels like a bit of a chore because you know it's a little bit filler. You need to get all these fishes, open up the door, and then you move on to the Gollum boss battle, which is one of the weakest boss battles again, and probably is the second worst boss battle in LEGO Lord of the Rings. And the entire boss battle is based around fishing. All you do is do this little mini game, and then you collect a fish, throw it at Gollum, and then you attack him on the floor, and you repeat that process a few times to defeat Gollum. Now, this level actually has two of the worst boss battles in LEGO Lord of the Rings, and the mid-section where you have to collect fishes does feel like a little bit of a chore, and that's why I think it's the weakest level. Oh, it looks like we've got an emergency. It's time to move over to LEGO City Undercover with Chase McKay. Now, LEGO City Undercover is truly one of the greatest, most underrated LEGO games ever, and the years between 2012 and 2013, we got 4 super solid LEGO games, that being LEGO Batman 2, LEGO Marvel 1, LEGO City Undercover, and LEGO Lord of the Rings. For LEGO City Undercover, I was debated between the construction yard level and the Chen scrapyard level. However though, the construction yard level is absolutely hilarious. You've got LEGO Arnold following you around making references to Terminator Commando. Oh, it's brilliant. I'll let you have a listen to it.
Somebody, get him to the chopper. I'm in hospital.
Now, the other level that I mentioned is Chen's Scrapyard, and I really do like the entire aesthetic of this level. It's very based off the 70s and the 80s with Chase's suit and stuff, and I especially love the soundtrack in the background. It just is the weakest level in this game. And with this being a scrapyard, yes, the developers got quite creative with all of the puzzles. There was some where the cars were falling and you had to balance on the poles and climb between them. I really liked all these aspects of the level. It's just that Lego City Undercover, very similar to Lego Batman 2, has solid levels all around, and it's not like this is absolutely shocking. It's just, I think, the most basic and forgettable one. And really, the level starts out pretty strong. You've got to look for some gasoline to basically control the crane to move on into the next area of the scrapyard. It's towards the end where you've got to save Natalia. It just becomes very basic. It's very easy to save Natalia. You literally just do a little bit of parkour and it's done. And what I really do love is the orange analogous colour scheme they used in this level. It just has that 70s and 80s vibe to it. And yes, it does flood in quite a few enemies for you to take out, and I love spinning them around and throwing them into the fire and stuff. That'd be really fun. It's just, I really think the weakest bit is when you have to save Natalia. It's really forgettable and quite shabby. All you do is a little bit of parkour and the level just has a really unsatisfying conclusion to it. So then, it's time to move over to New York City in Lego Marvel Superheroes. Now, this single-handedly was the hardest one on the entire list, and I'm not even joking, there is not a single bad level in Lego Marvel Superheroes. Like, seriously, look at all of these levels on the screen. There is not a single bad level here. Tell me if you see one, because hey, I can't. Obviously, though, I'm going to have to pick a level, and I think I'm going to go with Redhead Detention. And the main reason why is I'm not a massive fan of the overall aesthetics of the Hydra base. That's about it. It's not even a bad level. I really love the co-op play between the Human Torch, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and then the Red Skull boss battle at the end is pretty decent. I mean, literally, what else am I meant to choose from? This may be the slightly weakest level in the game. You've got the symbiote chambers under Oscorp Tower where you get jump scared by Venom. You've got the X-Men level. You've got the Magneto's Island level. You've got the Fantastic Four level, the one where you go Asgard. There's so many brilliant levels. So yeah, with that being said, the slightly weakest level has to go to Redhead Detention. So then, it's time to move over to where everything is awesome. It's Lego Movie, the video game. The standout worst level in this game, and I'm sure most of you can agree with me here, it has to go to the depths. Now, we have seen a level very similar to this one before in LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4, but what that level does well in particularly to this one is how it incorporates the puzzles underwater. Now, the depths is broken into two main areas. You've got the beginning area, which is just a basic level with a few puzzles, and then the second area is where you're all swimming underwater, and it's kind of set up like a 2D platformer. Now, do not get me wrong, the visuals are really incredible in this entire level, but the gameplay feature where you have to collect oxygen to stay alive is a really pointless feature because most of the time you cannot find any oxygen, and if you die you can just pick your studs back up and carry on. And as you are travelling through the depths, there's no puzzles at all. The only puzzle that is an exception is where you have to guide the swordfish towards the shield to move on to the next area. Now, what I do go to appreciate about the next area is how it changes the visuals once again, because you get even deeper and deeper into the depths, so it gets even darker. And I really like the obstacles they throw at you. These are these fishes that take you in, and then if you get caught by them, they will send you back to where you started. And the obstacles make this a lot better in the second half of the level. And then it goes to throwing this gigantic electric eel, which is absolutely amazing, and I really love the second half of this level as it starts to throw in some obstacles. It's just the beginning of the level is really, really weak, and it definitely pulls it down because you just feel like you're swimming endlessly. And not to forget, whilst you are swimming, you have the soundtrack in the background, which just plays over and over again, the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It just does that over and over. But we all need to appreciate Vitruvius' swimming. Look at that. That, my friends, is how you swim. Anyway, it's time to go far over the misty mountains cold to Lego Hobbit. So I actually really love Lego Hobbit. It's a shame they didn't finish the final film, but we won't talk about it. Now, the worst level for me out of this entire game has to be On the Doorstep. Now, this is the second to last level in the entire game, and it's the one where you're trying to get into the Lonely Mountain, otherwise known as Erebor, to get the long-forgotten gold, or more particularly, the Arkenstone. The entire concept of this level is to basically get inside of Erebor to get the Arkenstone, and the level after where you're playing as Bilbo trying to hide from the dragon Smaug is a really brilliant level where you have to sneak around, and that is such a fantastic level. It's a shame the one before it is really, well, let's put it, a bit pointless and boring. And what doesn't help is how simplistic the puzzles are. You literally just have to use dwelling multiple times to whack a load of rocks. And I really do like the verticality of the level as you scale up to try and get to the door, and then you pretty much just get to it and the cutscene opens the door for you. I'd rather do a puzzle to open the door and have a bit of fun, but it's just established in the cutscene, and that kinda ruins the entire conclusion of the level, and it's just a little bit dissatisfying. And they could have done like an intricate puzzle with the moonlight to try and open the door like they do in the film, and that would have been a really cool creative puzzle, but they missed out on that opportunity, and this level really does feel a little bit filler. But hey, it's alright, because the level after when you're trying to hide away from the dragon Smaug is a really awesome stealth level, except from the boss battle at the end. It's a bit, you know, Anyway, it's time to go to Lego Batman 3, which is way beyond Gotham. Now, Lego Batman 3's entire level design, to simply put it into one word, it's just a little bit mediocre. Now, I did replay Lego Batman 3, and there were no level that really jumped out at me. The only ones that I remembered from when I was younger were the ones such as Europe Against It, where you're in tiny Europe, or the one where you're in tiny Gotham City, and I do remember the last level where you're in the Fortress of Solitude fighting gigantic Superman. And talking about that level, I'm actually placing that down as the worst level in Lego Batman 3. Let me explain. Now, the final level literally just seems like you're fighting wave on wave of enemies, and that is actually what you're doing. Now, the first section of the level, you need to try and guide all these lantern beams into the centre at the focal point to try and return Earth back to its normal size. And what you seem to do is take out a wave of 20 enemies and then simply defeat a boss with one single heart, and then Atrocitus comes back in and you do the exact same with Atrocitus, and it's just a little quick time event, and yes, you need to take out even more wave of enemies, and then you get the cutscene, and then at the end you have the Superman boss battle. And whilst you're on the Superman boss battle, you just wait for him to attack, and that boss battle is all fine until they start flooding in yet again even more enemies, and you need to take out a wave of 30 enemies, and it really is just wave after wave of enemies for this final level. And the final level in a Lego game should be the most memorable, epic level. For example, the final level from The Hobbit where you're hiding from the dragon Smaug, or the final level from Lego Marvel 1 with Galactus, the final level from Lego Harry Potter Years 1 to 4 where you're in the graveyard fighting Voldemort. There's so many memorable final levels, and this one just seems really substandard. And I just think all the levels in Lego Batman 3 are literally on par. They're all mediocre, and I just think the last level, to say it's the last level, it really is weak, and I think it's deserving of the worst level just because of that, because the last level has high standards to me, and this one is really under the bar. And yeah, it probably sounds like I'm absolutely shredding Lego Batman 3. I'm not. Lego Batman 3 is a really good Lego game. I love the character roster, and the levels, like I said, they're all mediocre. I don't hate any of them, and I don't really cherish any of them as my favourites. It's just a fine Lego game to go through, and if you haven't played it, don't get put off by it. It's worth a play. Anyway, it's time to spare no expense and head over to Jurassic World. Bum 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 ba da 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 da. So for Jurassic World, I'm gonna go with the level The Landing Site, which is the first level from Jurassic Park 3. Right, so the main entire goal of this level is to simply stop Amanda Kirby shouting, "Eric!" Oh, you think I'm joking? Have a listen to her. Eric! 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 The main reason why you have to stop her shouting Eric is because you're on an island full of dinosaurs and she's literally going to alert the Spinosaurus. Shut up. Oh, but boy does she not listen to you, so you have to do numerous puzzles just to simply get up to her to tell her to shut up. The level's entire runtime is roughly around 3 minutes of gameplay. And once you've finally finished the first section, which is nothing special like I mentioned, you can see in the gameplay behind me, the puzzles are really Bob standard, and the second section of the level involves around you running away from a Spinosaurus. Now, the funny thing is, right, you would think this is pretty cool, but every level in Lego Jurassic World pretty much ends with you running away from a dinosaur. I'm not even joking, have a look. Anyway, next up is LEGO Dimensions. And unfortunately for me, I got rid of my consoles and you cannot get LEGO Dimensions on PC, so I can't really give an opinion on this one because I haven't replayed it. That means we're going to have to jump over to the next LEGO game, which is LEGO Avengers. Now, LEGO Avengers is one of them LEGO games that feel like it hasn't aged all too well. The main reason for this is just simply put it how big the MCU is getting now. It just feels a bit outdated, this LEGO game, because it's only focusing on the first 2 Avenger films, and they kind of feel like they dragged it out a little bit. That being said though, LEGO Avengers really does improve upon a few elements such as Iron Man's outfits in this LEGO game. I love when you enter his helmet and you see all the outfits. I love Stan Lee and all his different variations such as the Hulkbuster Iron Stan. So for the worst level, I'm going to put down the level No Strings on Me. The main issue for me with this level is just how easy the level is, and I know LEGO games are not meant to be mega difficult, but this just feels really draining. Because the puzzles are really easy in this level, every single time you complete one of them, you're greeted with this little cutscene to show you where to go next, and because you complete the puzzles so easily, half of your gameplay is watching these cutscenes to show you where to go next. And this is definitely abundant in the first section of this level, but when you move over to the second section, the level really goes amazing. I mean, you literally get to watch Captain America vs Falcon at snooker. Look how amazing this is. I was sat here for ages watching it. Best bit of the level, best bit. Then you've got our man Stan Lee having some smoothies at the bar. Now, the third and final area of this level revolves around you defeating the Iron Legion, and I'm really not a massive fan on how they handled this bit. Now, they could have placed in a really epic boss battle between you and Ultron and the Iron Legion, but they set it up where you have to rescue Iron Man, Captain America and Thor. The main problem for me here really is how the enemies are just bullet sponges. They take around 4 attacks to defeat, which is quite a lot of attacks in a LEGO game, and it doesn't help that Hawkeye and Maria Hill's moveset is quite slow at attacking up close. And to rescue all of the heroes, it is very simple to do. With Captain America, you simply just build a contraption that throws him his shield, and then you be Captain America, you throw your shield at something else, use Hawkeye to shoot arrows and then climb up the arrows to rescue the other one, and then finally as Thor, you just fight some more enemies. It just feels a little bit lackluster because it's a very simplistic design for a level that could have been made a lot better in the third and final act. And oh boy, the second part of this level is so amazing. I mean, look at it. You've got a little Iron Man balloon. Anyway, it's time to move on to the king of filler levels, and that goes to LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens Chapter 7, The Resistance. Now, LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens has not stood the test of time. It doesn't feel like it has aged all too well because we now have LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker saga. Now, the game has stretched out 10 levels out of one movie. So, this level, right, it's the king of filler. You are literally trying to open a door in your own resistant base, and then once you open the door, you are greeted with another door, and then once you've done all of that, you basically have to load up your vehicle, and that is the entire level. It is the king of filler, and it is a really drawn-out, pointless level. I mean, that's not how LEGO game levels work. Next up, it's time to move on to one of the most forgotten LEGO games, LEGO Ninjago, the video game. So this one is going to be slightly different to the others because the LEGO Ninjago movie video game only has 8 main story levels, well 10 technically. Now with this one only having 8 total main levels in the story, it is a really hard decision. Granted, a lot of the levels feel very similar in the way they are approached. What I do go to appreciate about this LEGO game though is the sheer verticality in the levels. I especially love scaling up all these buildings, doing parkour and stuff, and that is the main involvement in this game. It mainly heavily relies on parkour, and that's why a few of the levels can feel very similar, or pretty much all of them, and it's a really tough decision because they're all the same. The only thing that changes is the background scenery. There's no level that really stands out above the other. And hey, I'm gonna be brutally honest, I'm a massive fan of the combat system in this LEGO game, but sometimes when you're in the levels, it just gets really chaotic. So going back to the question, which is the worst level, no level stands out as the worst and no level stands out as the best. They're all on the same level. And if you are enjoying this video, it did take some time to make, so a like would be greatly appreciated. And if you like my content, feel free to subscribe, it's up to you. Anyway, let's jump over to Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. So this, my friends, is a really easy one, and I'm gonna go with the level Tornado. So, to kick things off, the level is an underwater level, and I'm not a massive fan of underwater levels because they try to match the real life physics where you move slower underwater, which makes sense, but when you're trying to fight enemies in a Lego game, it feels really slow. I mean, look how slow my character is moving. And with there being such an abundance of characters on the screen, it can get a little bit frustrating to select a certain character to do a certain puzzle. Now, the puzzles just consist of matching colours of the oysters from outside of the chamber to inside of the chamber. Pretty basic. Then when you move on into the next phase of the level, it does get a lot better because the water disappears and the level picks up a bit of pace, and it is pretty fun in this little boss battle area. You gotta lure Torg onto a giant banana, and I do like the combat in this bit. Then you return back into the water for the final phase of the level, but all you need to do is really swim through some jellyfish, and then you're greeted with the final boss, which in all honesty, I did quite enjoy. It's actually a pretty good boss. All of my major complaints for this level mainly happen in the first section of the level. Even the bit where you're controlling the giant fish underwater, that is extremely slow. Like, look at it. If you move any slower, you will stop. Anyway, next up is Lego Incredibles. Now, Lego Incredibles is one of the most easiest Lego games, and it only has a whopping total of 10 main story levels, which is extremely short for a Lego game. But what I do appreciate about this one, compared to the Lego Ninjago game, is how the level design does change from level to level. And I thought they did a really good job on all the 10 levels. Mind you, there is only 10 levels, so you would expect them to do a good job. Compared to the complete saga, we have 36 main story levels in that one. The weakest one out of these 10 main story levels will most likely have to go to House Party. Now, my main problem with Lego Incredibles is how easy the Lego game is, and yes, Lego games are not meant to be difficult, but the puzzles in Lego Incredibles don't have much thought behind them, and they're kind of brushed over a little bit too quickly, and this level falls under that majorly. Now, the level has around 10 minutes of gameplay and includes 5 total bosses. I mean, that is literally a boss every 2 minutes. And it really takes away the charm of Lego game levels, because normally the puzzles are quite thought out and they link in with how you defeat them, and yes, they do here, but the puzzles are really easy. When you defeat them, you feel unsatisfied and you quickly move on to the next one. It just feels like the entire flow of this level is a little bit off. And yes, in terms of the story, you are getting attacked at your own home, so you are trying to defend yourself, and I'm not saying this is a bad level. Like I said, I think they did a pretty good job on all 10 levels, so it's a really fun, and it just feels a bit too quick for me, and a very easy level. And the final boss is really disappointing. All you pretty much do is a super build and just bash their heads in. But but the level does feature a ball pit, and we've never seen a Lego game ball pit before, so there you go. It's pretty cool. Dropping the exact same year as Lego Incredibles is Lego DC Supervillains in the year of 2018. This one for me is a very, very easy choice to make, and it has to go to the 4th main level in the game, the Harley and Ivy. Now, the level opens up with a boss battle, and in all honesty, this boss is very simplistic, but it does have some really nice visuals to the entire setting of the level. And I do really love the enemies that come flooding in. You've got these weird mushroom people, you've got people surfing on crocodiles or alligators, whatever they are. And as people go to say, do not judge a book by its cover. And here, it looks like a phenomenal boss battle, but when you get into the actual design of it, it really is a bit simplistic. So for actually attacking the boss, all you simply do is throw objects at Poison Ivy. Now, the main part of the level is to progress your way through the botanical gardens, and you have to do this doing puzzles and then attack Poison Ivy every now and again. Now, the puzzles in in some sort of way are not actually puzzles, because all you simply do is utilize the character's abilities to destroy either silver objects or golden objects. Now, the best example here is Galactus in LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 1. He has a very similar premise to Poison Ivy. He is just in the background as you are doing puzzles to pretty much defeat him. However, in that boss battle, they really utilize the puzzles and they make you think about them, and it makes it a lot more engaging. Here, it just seems like you're destroying stuff using abilities, and that is what you're doing. Now, once you have defeated Poison Ivy, you move on to the second phase of the level, where you basically have to show the world that the Justice Syndicate is a fraud. And yes, the second phase of the level does go to improve on the puzzles, and it mainly works as a 2D platform as you're vertically climbing this massive tower. And in all essence, the entire part of the level where you're climbing up this tower, it works totally fine. It's exactly what you expect it to be. However, when you get to the very end of the level, it just wraps itself up in a really disappointing way. And the reason why it does this, you basically have to use your custom character to go through the vents to take out the SWAT team to allow the other characters to move up to the final area. Now, when you're in this final area, it lures you towards this next puzzle with the camera, and you basically use Poison Ivy's ability, which I do think is pretty cool. It's very similar to the Time Stone in LEGO Marvel 2. And then you activate the panel at the top, and literally the level just ends there. I didn't expect that to be the end of the level, and it just felt really unsatisfying. And the level is quite a long level at 30 minutes, so the ending really didn't make it any better. And if you compare this level to the first ever level in LEGO DC Supervillains, where you're climbing up the clock tower with Joker and Harley Quinn, it's a really big contrast in quality, because that first level is really stunning. It's got some great platforming aspects, some really thought out puzzles, and the enemies that flood in are really fun to take out. Now it's time to jump over to the year of 2019, where everything is meant to be awesome again, but it's just not. It's LEGO Movie 2. So, LEGO Movie 2, now this may sound absolutely ridiculous, has no levels. Now, hey, you may be sat there thinking, well, let me explain. Now, LEGO Movie 2, in all honesty, is a sandbox LEGO game, because it is built in the exact same engine as LEGO Worlds. And yes, in some sort of way, they are playable levels, but they're mainly integrated as hub levels as you explore this massive sandbox for you to play around in. So I can't exactly give a worse level, because they're all really hub levels and just integrated into you exploring this giant sandbox. But if you do want me to give my opinion on the entire overall game of LEGO Movie 2, I've made an entire video up there on why it is kind of the worst LEGO game. I do enjoy it, but if you want to check it out, it's up there. For our final LEGO game on the list, we have LEGO Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. And straight away, the worst level is They Fly Now. Oh, this level is really bad. Just like the movie. Now, this has to go down as one of the shortest LEGO game levels ever. It roughly takes around 1 minute and 30 seconds to fully complete it. Now, what do you do in these 1 minute and 30 seconds, you may ask? Well, to put it simply, all you do is shoot at some First Order Stormtroopers that are either on their speeder bikes or when they use their jetpack to fly. And yeah, that's pretty much the level. But anyway, thank you for watching today's video. This did take so long to make, and a like would be greatly appreciated. And if you do like my content, feel free to subscribe down below. It is up to you. And if you want to check out the other videos in this series, every single LEGO game, there'll be a playlist at the end. Thanks for watching, have a good week guys, and I'll see you all around. Adios.